Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Helifar X140 Pro. So I think Fury Bee has become Helifar, some issue with the name perhaps, but I guess you could say that this is the Pro version of the Fury Bee X140. And when this guy came out, I absolutely loved it. It was really cheap at just £89. I think the price has changed on that now though. But one thing that was really good about it is you could fit the Runcam split mini in there without any modification. It just slots in the top there. I do think that that was just a coincidence. I don't think it was designed for that, because if we take a look at the Pro version here, you can see that they have recessed the camera backwards, and I think that is to protect it better. So you can see we do have camera protection. Now there's just a little tiny piece sticking out, but I think that is going to mean that you aren't going to be able to fit the split mini in there unless you sort of moved it backwards and didn't use the standoffs. So, spoiler alert, I have already flown this one, and it's a fixer-upper, I would say. Not in the case that it needs lots of physical changes, but it definitely needed some work on the setup and the tune and also the props. You'll notice I've got the Gemfan 3052 flashes on here, and it does not come with those. It comes with these, which they are saying are a 3041, but I actually think these are either the Racecraft or a copy of the Racecraft, and I think they are a 3076, so they've got crazy pitch on there, and as I say, spoiler alert, it didn't fly very well on them. So if you're going to get this model, throw these away. However, I will be flying it on these to show you what it's like, but this thing has got so much more potential than it had out of the box. So let's take a look at the specifications. So the frame is different. It looks similar, but it is different. So the arms are thicker. We have got 4mm carbon on the arms. They are individual arms here, and you can see they reach around to the front there, and oddly there's a hole there for like a screw, but there's no screw going in there. So yeah, we have got a gap here, so individual arms there. The motors, they have a brand on them, so Sky Stars, and they are a 1408 3600 kV, so they're a very similar motor actually to what you get on the DT160 that I reviewed previously. So the guts, and this is interesting, we have got a Helifar branded, they are saying, 32-bit 4-in-1 ESC board that supports D-Shot 1200. They are 25 amp. And if we go above that, we have got an Omnibus F4 SD. And then above that, we've got a 48-channel switching VTX. It's not HDL-RC. I actually think it's sort of like a variation of the Aurora RC stack. And yeah, so it switches from 0 milliwatt to 200 milliwatt. So it's got pit mode and it's got smart audio, and smart audio is set up. And we have got a LED board at the back that's a little bit crooked there, and I think, is that just, how is that in there? I think it's, yeah, it's just on these cable ties here, and then we've got a buzzer that is connected as well. These are all configured and set up. This is the bind and fly version, so we've got an XM Plus receiver. It doesn't have any RSSI set up on it, so you'd have to flash the firmware if you wanted to do that. And the price, I think, is £122, which I think is about $160, something like that. So yeah, it's a fairly premium price. You know, it's up there with the GT-M3 and the Skyzone S140. But I have to say that, yeah, I'm quite impressed with the components that we've got here. So what about the camera? So usually with these Fury Bee Helifar models, they say it's a CCD camera, and it's not. It's a CMOS camera, and it's 16:9. That is not the case with this. It seems to be the same camera that came with the original X140 that I received. I know they're always like changing them and stuff when they send them out to customers, which is just not on at all. But yeah, this is a 4x3 CCD camera. It is a copy of the micro Swift, and it's got a 2.3mm lens on it, so that is a good thing. Everything is looking good with this one, isn't it? By the way, I did have to add these cable ties here and heat shrink, although they do give you some cable ties and heat shrink to do that. Now, just like the original X140 and also the Turtles, it's got an XT60 connector rather than XT30, but you can see they provided an XT30 in here, but that is going to be a pain to take all of this apart, desolder it, and then put this on. So I'm actually going to be using a conversion cable, which is going to add weight. Speaking of weight, this guy isn't that lightweight really for a 3-inch. It's 165 grams without a battery, and then with a battery, so it doesn't come with a battery, I'm going to be using these Tattoo 850 milliamp 75C4S batteries. It weighs 270 grams, so a little bit heavy. So why is it so heavy? Well, I think actually this is probably one of the reasons. We've got a very hefty RP SMA connector here. You know, I don't think it's going to get damaged in a crash because it's really hefty, but it's going to be heavy. By the way, you're not given this antenna in the package. This is one of those Axie copies. You are given a dipole antenna, which I think is a bit daft really, because it's not going to be any better than those little tiny linear antennas that weigh next to nothing. They could have just put one of those on there. However, because it does have a RPSMA connector here, I'm going to be able to get slightly better video reception if I use one of these antennas, but yeah, it makes it a fairly heavy model. So you get a full set of these props and then another full set in a bag. You get the instructions for the XM Plus. It's already got a battery strap around it, and it's already got a silicon mat. This is the box that it comes in, so a fairly small box. I already talked about the antenna. That is everything that you get. Sadly, there are no instructions. So what was the Betaflight setup like? Well, it actually came with a fairly old version of Betaflight, version 3.24, and it was just okay. I think you're going to need to do some work on it. It's got its custom PIDs in there, which I thought was interesting, and it's got custom rates. I have to change the rates because I'm used to my own rates. It doesn't have any modes in there whatsoever. I know they're probably thinking that, well, if this is a pro model, people are just going to be flying acro, but I like to have my arming on a switch, so I added that. I like to have angle mode in there for safety, and I like to have my beeper on the aux3, so I added that. D-Shot 1200 was set up, but digital idle was just set at 4.5, which is stock, so I've bumped that up to 6. I tend to find on the smaller models that you can get a flip of death if you don't do that. It didn't have air mode permanently on, so I've added that. It did have anti-gravity, and it also had dynamic filters turned on. I've turned up anti-gravity gain to 3, and I've also added TPA at 0.2 as well, so just small changes. I've also put in the command set small underscore angle equals 180, because on version 3.2 it's not in the configurator. It is on 3.3 though. The target is Omnibus F4SD. I did change the on-screen display around as well because it was just awful. It had got the artificial horizon and the sidebars, and you know, funnily enough, even though we've got smart audio connected here, and it was also set up in the ports correctly, they didn't have the VTX channel set up on there, so I added that, and there's no current meter on this guy as well. Alrighty, let's line of sight this guy. Just gonna take it out into the field. Man, the grass gets long quick now. So my first thoughts is it's feeling a little bit heavy on the hover. I've got 6% digital idle in here, and yeah, it's hovering 35 to 40%, just a little bit more than usual. So let's see what the punch is like. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad, but I don't think it's going to be a top contender. when it comes to speed. I think I am hearing a little bit of fluttering as well, so let's go into acro here and just see what it's like. Yeah, it's alright. It's kind of a little bit loose though, I think. That's how I describe it. It is nice to see them putting tunes on these models there rather than just stock values, because stock values are just absolutely no good for these smaller models. So I think at least the tune that it's got on there out of the box will be okay for it, but I think it needs some work. That's my initial thoughts. Okay, so let's see how noisy it is. It's a weird one. I wouldn't say it was loud. It's kind of like zingy. It's a particular frequency that it's resonating. It's probably the props doing that. Yeah, but you know, it's flying. Feels just a little bit heavy, but it is a heavier model, I think, with this battery. What did I say? 270 grams. No, there are lighter 3-inch models than that. But I can't deny that the components are pretty good. And for the line of sight, you know, it's doing okay. Yeah, I'm able to do my normal maneuvers, power loops and stuff. But yeah, just feeling a little bit loose, a little bit, I think disconnected is perhaps the word. But maybe, you know, that's how people are setting copters up, you know, for flow or whatever they call it, juicy, whatever they call it. I prefer more sort of snappy rather than, you know, how I would describe loose, someone else might describe as smooth. But I have a feeling that if you were to do a quick hesitation maneuver, yeah, I think I can see it. It's hard to tell on the line of sight, but I think it is having a bit of a wobble. Yeah, I can see a wobble there. So, you know, I'll check that out on the FPV, because I think it's only going to show itself even more. But yeah, anyways, it flies out of the box, at least. So here is some DVR footage. This is on the stock PIDs and the stock props. And I thought I'd have a quick go of the tune, and just as I thought on the line of sight video, it feels really sloppy and loose, and hey, some people might like that, but from my perspective, I'm trying to think what things are better when they're floppy. Let's check out the speed. 81 miles per hour, and there's some kind of vibration, hesitation going on there, and I actually think it's these propellers. But yeah, I could actually hear some kind of vibration as well. So I thought I'd do a bit of hesitation, and yeah, once again, the PID's a little bit too loose for me. Maybe you will like them, but yeah, I tried a few different speed runs to see if I could improve on the speed, but again, look at that, we're getting some vibrations. And by the way, the video's breaking up at the end there. That's my fault. I didn't point the antenna backwards, so it's basically facing away, so that's why we are getting some breakup there. So I thought I'd check out the hesitation, and look at that, just, yeah, it just bounces all over the place. This thing, in my opinion, needs a good tune, and even on the roll, that one's usually easier to tune, we are getting bounce back on there. So yeah, I think it's a nice try giving it a custom tune, but this isn't how I like to fly, at least. One thing I can take away from this flight though is that the video is crystal clear, great camera quality, no noise from the VTX. It's just that, you know, we are not getting great performance really, you know, 77 miles per hour, it's okay. But there was just something saying to me this setup should be doing much better than that. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to spend a lot of time on the tune. I'm going to switch the props out to the Gemfan Flash, and let's see how it performs. So the tune I got, it was absolutely fantastic. I'll overlay the PIDs here. Hesitation, absolutely no movement at all. Snappy, completely transformed the quad. The props, no more vibrations, absolutely smooth power delivery. And let's take a look at the speed difference. Wow, I mean, what can you say any more than that? It goes to show you that, you know, you have to spend time finding a good combination. 99 mile per hour against 77, that's a huge increase. Let's try again. 98 mile per hour. This is a fairly heavy 3-inch model, and it's performing the same as the X140, which is a lighter model and has the same motor configuration when it comes to specs. So why is this one just as fast? Probably the components, maybe the fact that, you know, we've got 32-bit ESCs and it's a different ESC. I don't know, it's a difficult one to explain because it's a fair bit heavier. But yeah, I mean, you know, I can't argue with the results. And this thing flies superb. So yeah, a little bit of tweaking with different props. I mean, just look at that punch there. It's a real performer now. And yeah, you will get around about a 3.5 minute to 4 minute flight time. I get less than that because I'm doing these speed runs, of course. But yeah, I think this model is really great. I think, yeah, as the battery, look at that, just dropping down to 12.9 volts. That's when we start to lose the speed, you know, so that's gonna happen. But yeah, great potential in this model, and I think if you use my PIDs and change the props, then it's a really good setup. I think you just have to play around with it a little bit. So yeah, having to go around the trees as well. Yeah, it really did make a difference on the power delivery switching to these props. You know, I think they build these models to spec rather than actually trying them out. Someone must have gone in there and flew it to give those PIDs, you know. When I saw a D value of 22 on the original tune, I thought, that's similar to how I tuned the X140, but the P gains were way too low and that's why it was sloppy. But look at this thing now, man. It is just proper snappy, and we've got great video feed, you know, very little breakup with that antenna there, and just no noise either. So yeah, a very good system once you get it set up. So I'll put a link in the description if you wish to get one, and as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.